Welcome to CINEPRO, where we bring your favorite movies back to life with quick recaps, hidden details, and everything you missed. Our movie begins with a woman named Colleen, as she moves with her daughters Beth and Vera to the new apartment where they will live after they left their home. We know that they are going to live in the house of their Aunt Clarice, who passed away some time ago. Since then, the house has been abandoned. While they are on the way, she prefers to tell them about her new novel and reads its events to them in detail. We know that Beth is very passionate about writing, especially in the field of horror, and we hope that she is a famous writer and has a large audience that follows and reads her works. After she finishes reading the novel, her mother Colleen encourages her and tells her that this is the best thing she has written so far. She tells her that she says the same thing to her after every novel, but Colleen assures her that this novel is really the best thing she has written. At that time, Vera intervenes in the conversation and asks Beth how she accepted to waste her time writing such stupid talk, and expresses to her that she does not like the novel. She lets her be silent and tells Beth that she really likes the novel. Beth understands that she's only saying this because she is her mother and nothing more. Vera's words affect her psyche and shake her self-confidence. Meanwhile, Vera notices that there is a strange car driving behind them on the road, and it follows the same movements and feels that there is something strange, but she doesn't care and sits listening to songs all the way. When they arrive at a gas station, she just gets out of the car and goes into the supermarket on the road to buy them some stuff, and at that moment the owner of the supermarket asks her to stop where she is until she does something and comes back. She continues to stand in the store waiting for its owner, and while she is standing, she notices the same car that was behind them, parked in front of the store, as if waiting for them to move again so it can go back and watch them. However, she doesn't care, and thinks that the matter is just a coincidence, and at that moment, her attention is caught by a newspaper in the store that says news of the appearance of a brutal criminal known as the Family Killer, who has killed 5 families so far. She starts reading the news and tells her that she loves articles of this type. While she is reading, Vera goes into the supermarket to get her after she notices that she is late, and finds that she is busy reading the news and very absorbed. She smiles at what she is reading and tells her that she is just reading something she won't love. She tells her about the family killer that she remembers in the news she reads, and who is known for destroying homes with families in them and killing the father and mother or whoever is present and ravaging their children in the house and staying with them against their will and corpses of their families. But Vera doesn't believe all this talk and tells her that it is definitely not true. At the same moment, Colleen enters the supermarket, takes them both, and walks. They finally arrive at the house that looks very mysterious and terrifying from the inside, and there are dolls and toys everywhere as if it is a doll museum and not a house. But the strange thing is that the dolls don't look comfortable at all, and it takes Colleen and her daughters time until they can turn on the lights of the place. Although they feel something strange in the house, they decide to live in it and adapt to their new home because they have no other solution. Vera goes up with Beth to the floor above. They enter the room alone and then notice a mirror with a strange and mysterious shape. Bella finds a button next to it, so she pulls it, and here the mirror turns into a door and opens, and a large doll with a terrifying appearance comes out from behind it. At that moment, Vera is terrified and very scared, unlike Beth, who does not show any reaction. Vera tells her mother that she is not happy in this house. After a while, Beth starts arranging her books and things in the room. Meanwhile, she gets very tired and starts bleeding, which makes her cry and asks Colleen for help to treat her. At that moment, Vera comes and makes fun of her and sees that her fear and reaction are exaggerated. After Colleen treats Beth, she sits with Vera in the courtyard of the house and tries to ask her to treat her sister in a better way than this. Vera responds to her and tells her that she does not understand how Beth loves horror and bloody events and was scared when she bled a little. She tells her she discovered that Beth was living in a fantasy world that only she knew the details of, and that she was imagining that she had become a famous writer with fans and followers from all over the world, and newspapers were asking her for interviews. At that moment, she discovered that Vera was jealous of Beth, and she was sure that the breakup incident that happened between Vera and her lover was what affected her in this way and made her hate her sister and see her as better than her. She asked her not to involve her sister in her personal problems, and she left her alone in the yard and entered the house. At that moment, Vera got very angry and cursed Beth to herself and said that Colin loved her, and she wished that Beth would disappear from her life. After that, she entered the house. At that time, the strange car that had been chasing her on the road in front of the house arrived and stopped in a suspicious and terrifying manner. Vera went upstairs, took out Beth's belongings from her room, and told her that she didn't want her to stay in the same room with him. She was very angry with her, and her behavior towards her was bad, but Beth remained silent and tried to calm her anger so that no problems would arise between them on the first day of their new life. At that moment, Colin received a call from a friend named Jane. When she tried to answer, the sound was cut off, and the call disconnected without Colin understanding what Jane wanted to say. Suddenly, a giant person with a deformed face appeared, struck Colin forcefully, and slammed her against the wall. At that moment, her head was injured, and she began to bleed. It became apparent that this giant was in the car that had been following them. The giant noticed a small doll in the hall where they were. He grabbed it and started smelling it in a very disgusting way. Vera and Beth arrived at the scene because of their mother's screams. The giant, standing in front of them, caused them to try to run away, but he managed to catch them. Meanwhile, a girl with a terrifying appearance emerged from the same car. She was also deformed, resembling a freak or a terrifying monster, and she entered the house. The giant grabbed Vera by her hair and dragged her to the basement of the house. There, he picked her up and began smelling her, much like he had smelled the doll in the hall. However, he didn't like her scent and threw her violently to the ground. Then, he turned to Vera, picked her up, and smelled her in the same repulsive way. This time, he seemed to like Vera's scent and started assaulting her cruelly, suffocating her. All of this happening in front of Beth, who was terrified and didn't know what to do to save her sister. The giant carried Vera into a mysterious part of the house. Beth, desperate to save her sister, quickly searched for a way to help. At that moment, the deformed woman who was with the giant appeared and struck Beth in the face with a pen. Despite this, Beth managed to escape and used a weapon she found in the house. However, the woman saw her and was about to attack her when Colin appeared. A fierce fight broke out between Colin and the woman. Beth hid, terrified for her mother and unsure of what was happening. Suddenly, Beth decided to open the door and found the woman unconscious in front of her. She realized that Colin had managed to defeat her. Colin then appeared, collapsed and bleeding from the fight with the terrifying woman. She urged Beth to leave the house quickly before anything else happened. At that moment, they heard Vera screaming. Colin, startled, ran to the source of the screams, with Beth following closely behind. Colin confronted the giant who had kidnapped her daughter. She repeatedly stabbed him with a sharp object until his entire body was covered in blood. Overwhelmed by terror for her daughters, she continued to stab him randomly while screaming. The deformed woman regained consciousness and arrived at the scene, but Colin grabbed her neck and attacked her. At that moment, Beth woke up from a terrifying nightmare. She had been dreaming about the traumatic incident that had happened to her, her mother, and her sister years ago. Beth was now in her own home. Shaken by the nightmare, her husband comforted her, reassuring her that she was safe now and that the events of the past were long behind her. Beth had achieved her dream of becoming a famous writer. She had a large audience and a supportive husband who encouraged her in everything she did. She wrote about the traumatic events in a novel, which became a global bestseller and a trend. Broadcasters invited her to their shows, achieving high viewership through her appearances. One interviewer asked why she chose to share such a personal story with the public. She explained that it was her way of avoiding madness. After the interview, Beth returned home, where she and her husband watched the broadcast together. He was very proud of her and continued to support her. While at home, Beth received a call from her sister Vera. When she answered, she heard Vera screaming and crying. Vera told her that she needed to come to them. Immediately. Vera and Colin were still living in the same house where the traumatic incident had occurred. Beth began to panic and asked about their mother's whereabouts, worried about both Vera and her mother. However, Vera didn't provide any further details and ended the call. Beth tried calling her back, but Vera didn't answer. She also attempted to call her mother, but there was no response. Worried and anxious, Beth decided to prepare herself and travel to them. Before leaving, she told her husband that the house had become very dangerous for Vera and that she needed to take her to the hospital. After that, she travels to their place and finally arrives at the house after a long journey and keeps calling Colin and looking for her until she discovers that she is hanging clothes in the yard of the house. As soon as Colin sees her, she is very happy and realizes that they have been together for a long time. But she doesn't accept it, and Colin keeps hugging her and is very happy about her visit to the house. So she loves her and broadcasts about the reason for the surprise visit. And she tells her about Vera's call to her. And at that time, Colleen informs her that they are safe now. But Vera is the one who has been hallucinating since the accident, and still until today is living in the same nightmare that happened to them years ago. While they are talking, Beth tells Colleen that she sold all the dolls and toys that were in the house when they arrived, and then she understands that the money she sends to her mother from the profits of her books is not enough. And she cries a lot and feels guilty that she left her and Vera to live alone and move to a better place. But Colleen makes her understand that she can't feel guilty because her private life is what forced her to leave them and go, and assures her that she is not hiding from them as she believes. And while they are talking, they are shocked by Vera's voice as she screams from the basement and sounds as if someone wanted to kill her. So they both go to the basement quickly and keep looking for her until they find her hiding in a closet there. And Vera keeps screaming even after they find her, and Colleen tries to contain her and calm her down. And Beth stands very sad about the state her sister has reached, and Colleen stays with her until she falls asleep. Then she stays up late with Beth, who is very sorry for her sister and doesn't know how to act to help her. But Colleen makes her understand that there is nothing in her hands that she can do, and that Vera is in the same state since the day of the accident. Then she keeps playing with Beth's hair and makes her feel that she is still a child in her eyes. And Beth is very affected and afraid of losing her and her sister at any time. Then they go to sleep in their room, and while she is just sleeping, she hears a sound around her in the room. So she smiles at it and keeps looking for the source of the sound, and opens the door behind which is the terrifying doll that appeared to them as soon as they arrived. But she reacts that the doll is not behind it, and suddenly the doll appears in front of her and she starts to feel terrified, and she was tired of them, and jokes appeared while she was dreaming a nightmare. But her repentance to her in the mirror was that anyone who asked her to save him. So she understood that it was from Vera, and she went down to look for her in the basement until she found her sitting in a corner, hugged by the doll, and she asked her, "Were you going to let me die alone?" But she was reassured and understood that she would not die at all, and that everything that scared her ended a long time ago. But Vera had a different opinion, and told her that they appeared to her alone every day, and they continued to torture her. And she showed the marks of torture on her body and kept begging her to help her and make them stop torturing her. During this, they heard the sound of movement in the garden of the house. So Vera was scared and told her that they had arrived, and that it was the sound of their truck. But she tried to reassure her and told her that their mother was the one who arrived. And yet Vera remained determined that this was the sound of the truck and left to go hide before they reached her and tortured her like every day. Then Beth goes out alone to discover the source of the sound and is surprised by a predatory black animal that keeps staring at her in a terrifying way. And she is just afraid to move from her place so that it does not attack her until she reaches Colleen, who removes this animal from the house. After that, she and her mother sit alone, and Colleen keeps saying strange things to her like she wished to eat her so that she would stay with her and not leave her. But Beth is not afraid and understands that her mother is talking this way because she is drunk and nothing more. But Colleen assures her that she is conscious and sits in front of the mirror and keeps observing the wounds that the criminals caused her, and she feels that she is finally disfigured. So she hugs Beth to comfort her. During the conversation, Colleen keeps thanking Beth for her talent and assures her that her ability to create her own world is a very beautiful thing. And she knows she also read her last novel in which she talked about the tragedy that happened to them, and she liked it very much. The next day, she noticed a message on the mirror, the same message she had seen before. She became worried and kept looking for her sister until she found her handcuffed to the bed in her room, her face drawn on it, resembling the features of a terrifying doll. She couldn't understand who had done this to her. She also didn't know how to remove the handcuffs from her sister's hands to free her because she didn't have the key. She smiled in the room and went out to look for it. At that moment, the door closed on Vera, who kept screaming from inside the room. She sat in front of the door, begging Vera to open it for her, until suddenly the sound of the wind disappeared. She became even more worried and looked through the crack in the door. There she saw something terrifying moving in front of her. She quickly ran to Colin, woke her up, and asked her for the key to Vera's room so she could save her. At that moment, Colin was surprised and told her that Vera's room didn't have a key. The situation became very frightening, and neither of them understood what was happening. She returned to the third floor to try to save her sister by any means. At that moment, she saw Vera emerging from the room in a terrifying way, her hair disheveled, her face disfigured and bleeding. Vera began moving as if someone were attacking her, and indeed, there were clear signs of torture on her body, to the point that her fingers were broken. At that moment, she trembled, realizing that something was truly happening that she couldn't understand. She collapsed to the ground, trying to calm down, and found a place for her sister to rest until she could return her to the room. At that moment, Colin came and spoke to Vera in a very mysterious way, telling her that she knew why she was doing this. Afterward, she told her she would leave and stand on the road. She didn't understand anything and asked Colin to explain what she meant, but Colin ignored her question, asking her not to listen to her sister, then left. She returned to the place where Vera was restrained and began searching for her, trying to talk to her through the basement door. At that moment, the terrifying woman who had attacked them appeared and disappeared at the same moment. She heard a terrifying voice telling her that they had finally broken and destroyed her sister, and now it was her turn. She became even more terrified, not knowing what awaited her. Suddenly, the deformed giant who had attacked them the first time appeared in front of her. She tried to explain everything that had happened that day, but the giant disappeared in an instant, as if he were a ghost and not a real person. She resigned herself to the fact that she was lost in the terror and the situation they were in. But she realized the truth when she woke up the next day and found her face beginning to deform, just like what had happened to her sister. She couldn't escape it and began screaming hysterically, calling for her mother, who still hadn't returned home. She quickly went down to the basement, searching for Vera until she found her. Vera told her that she was the one who had done this to her while she was asleep to make her sick like her. But Vera assured her that the criminals were still there and that they were the ones who had done this to them. However, she remained insistent that Vera was the one responsible. At that moment, Vera hit her with a pen to wake her up, but she tried to calm them both down. The story ended with a shocking moment when the terrifying woman appeared in front of her. Her sister appeared before her eyes. She stood frozen, not knowing what to do. At that moment, Vera told her that she needed to leave the fantasy world she was living in and come back to reality for once instead of running away from it as she always did. She thought about what the criminals had done to their mother on the day of the accident. Then she remembered everything and saw the terrifying woman in front of her, brutally stabbing Colin. After that, the woman slit Colin's throat, ending her life. Beth finally broke down, screaming loudly, unable to believe that she had lost Colin forever. She kept recalling her memories with her since childhood, remembering how much she had loved and cared for her. It became clear that everything that had happened after the accident was a fabrication of her mind to help her forget the trauma of Colin's death and distract her from it. Beth realized that she was still living with Vera alone, that she hadn't married, traveled, or become a famous writer as her mind had made her believe, and that she and her sister had been trapped in the house ever since, unable to escape. Vera embraced Beth, trying to calm her down, but Beth broke down entirely. Her alternate personality emerged in her mind, cursing Vera and saying she hated her for ruining her life to the point where she could no longer regain control of her mind. Vera brings Beth's food and tries to feed her, but she refuses to eat and continues crying, not believing that she will not see Colleen again. And the next day, she wakes up to the sound of a bell with a terrifying tone. But she is used to it and quickly wakes up but tells her that she has to hide now because these are the rules of the game. And she hides her in the closet and asks her not to make any noise, but also asks her that if the terrifying woman manages to find her, she should not try to resist or escape and better not move at all until everything is over, and tells her that the last time she tried to escape, but what happened to her from them was very difficult and their reaction was extremely harsh. And then she says goodbye while she is collapsing and closes the closet door and walks. And after a few seconds, she hears the sound of footsteps inside the room, and she is very terrified and tries as much as possible to stifle her voice. But unfortunately, the terrifying woman manages to find her because her place is very expected. So she likes to broadcast from the intensity of terror. She resists her as a natural reaction from her, but the terrifying woman hits her and makes her. She loses consciousness, and after a while, she wakes up and finds herself under the hands of the terrifying woman appeared, putting makeup on her that resembled a bride or a clown. The woman seemed very pleased as she distorted Beth's face even more. Beth kept crying, unable to comprehend the state she had reached or how to save herself. She felt completely helpless. Meanwhile, she saw Colin's body through the glass, slaughtered, stunned inside, not believing what happened. Here, it appears that the terrifying woman and the giant monster with her are the same gang that killed families she read about in the supermarket before they arrived home for the first time. After the terrifying woman finishes preparing Beth and makes her look like the terrifying toy dolls, she appears with her in the room full of dolls in the house and puts her in an illusion in a certain way. She keeps adjusting the position of her sitting direction and the movement of her head until she makes her appear like a doll, just like the ones around her in the room, without any differences. Then she leaves her and goes out, and at that moment, Beth feels that there is a greater danger coming towards her. She takes off a piece of hair from one of the dolls next to her and tries to keep it until she needs to use it. After seconds, she hears the sound of the door and someone is trying to open it. At that moment, she remembers her sister's words when she asked her not to make any sound or move until they finish what they want so that they do not hurt her. Suddenly, the deformed giant enters the room, and she starts pretending to be a doll like the ones around her so that he does not hurt her in any way. The giant approaches the group of dolls she is in the middle of and keeps contemplating as if he is choosing one of them. Indeed, he chooses one of the dolls, takes it, and begins raping her in a disgusting way. After he finishes, he keeps breaking her fingers, then takes out a lighter and burns her arm. Beth sits terrified but tries not to show anything that indicates she is human. Unfortunately, the giant gets up and needs another bride. This time, he chooses Beth, hangs her in the air in a terrifying way, and rapes her like he did with the doll before her. This makes her cry involuntarily, feeling helpless. When the giant finishes, he takes out the lighter to burn her arm. But at that moment, a single battery from the blood works, so Beth turns away from her and shows it to the voice. Here she takes advantage of the opportunity, takes out the piece of hair she took from one of the dolls, and shows it at his back. At that moment, the giant collapses, screaming, causing all the dolls lined up to fall. All the dolls laugh at the same time, which makes the giant think they are laughing at him. He starts to remember every hurtful word of bullying he has ever heard in his life. He begins breaking the dolls hysterically, making Beth even more terrified of him, but she sees that the situation is in her favor. She waits until the giant is busy with one of the dolls and sneaks out of the room. She finds a door in front of her and tries to open it but realizes it is locked with a key. The terrifying woman appears from behind the door, realizing that Beth escaped. She starts knocking from outside so that the giant hears her and comes back. As soon as he hears the sound of knocking, he goes out of the room. Beth is terrified and afraid for her life, especially because she acted against her sister's warning. The giant handcuffs her like he did to Vera before. At that moment, Beth understands that he will do to her the same thing he did to Vera. She grabs her writing tablet and keeps hitting him with it until she defeats him and makes him lose consciousness. She takes the key to the handcuffs from his pocket, frees herself, and also takes the key to the door. She goes to open it and escape, but thinks that the terrifying woman is standing behind her. She does not know how to escape from her, so she stands behind the door and tries to listen for any sound to see if she's still there. The terrifying woman senses her and starts breaking the wood of the door with an axe to attack her. At that moment, Beth grabs her writing pad as a means of defense and uses the calmness of the world around her. Meanwhile, the terrifying woman hears the sound of the giant crying like a child and starts looking for him. Beth takes advantage of the opportunity, goes to her sister Vera, and tells her they have to escape now. They both move through the house, hoping to find a way out. The terrifying woman appears in the place where they are, so Beth hides with Vera and begs for mercy before being exposed. The terrifying woman is about to reach them but hears the sound of the giant hitting the ground from the floor above them. She smiles and looks at him. Beth and Vera finally get out of the house and run away. They keep running in the middle of the forest for a very long distances until the day breaks upon them to ensure that they are as far away from the house as possible. They keep running until a police car passes in front of them, so they stop where they are and easily go to wave for help. And indeed, they are heard by the officers in the car. The officers return to where they are, and it turns out to be a policeman and her assistant. Vera and Beth tell them the specifications of the two who attacked them, and at that time, the officer contacts his team and requests backup to head to the house, giving them the address. But before they move from their place, the terrifying woman arrives with a gun, shoots the officer, and kills him, then shoots his assistant who doesn't die immediately and tries to pull her gun to defend herself. But the terrifying woman doesn't give her a chance and shoots her in the head. Vera and her sister scream, hoping someone hears and saves them, but to no avail. The woman forces them into the truck and drives them back to the house. Inside the truck, Vera keeps screaming for Siri while noticing signs of silence and defeat on her sister, who sits motionless, detached from reality. Vera realizes that Beth is slipping into unconsciousness and that her mind is now separating from reality, just like what happened after Colleen's death. Vera pleads with her sister to wake up, but she doesn't respond at all, and Vera understands she's now alone between two monsters, the kidnappers and her emotionally gone sister. The terrifying woman arrives with them at the house, where the giant is already standing at the door. Meanwhile, in her subconscious mind, Beth imagines herself throwing a grand party celebrating the success of her last book, surrounded by friends proud of her. Colleen appears in the vision. telling her she's the best thing that ever happened in her life, and Beth is overwhelmed with happiness. But the joy is interrupted when she hears Vera's scream coming from the upper floor. She climbs up and sees a window looking out onto the real world, where Vera is desperately screaming her name. Colleen appears again, begging Beth to stay, warning her how cruel and painful the real world is. But Beth insists she cannot abandon her sister and returns to reality. She wakes just in time to find the giant choking her and attempting to assault her. She's on the verge of suffocation, but then the doll in the closet makes a sound, distracting the giant, who drops her and goes to the doll. Beth hears Vera's scream from the other room and runs to find the terrifying woman choking her. Beth attacks the woman, pulling her away from Vera, and begins violently beating her, slamming her head against the floor. At that moment, the giant bursts into the room, ready to attack again, but a miracle happens. A police officer storms in and shoots the giant, killing him instantly. When the terrifying woman lunges at the officer, he shoots her as well. Vera is transferred alone in an ambulance to the hospital to recover from the torture and trauma she endured. As for Beth, she remains haunted by everything that happened. Now a lieutenant, but constantly thinking about writing a novel to document the terrifying ordeal she and her family went through, and